Hey, welcome back to Second Act with DeAngelo. And we are here today with a special guest. I'm really excited to have this brother. His name is Dr. Leroy McKenzie Jr. He is a strategist, authorpreneur. I've never heard that before, but that's hot. And the CEO of Gen EF Enterprises, a company dedicated to helping leaders bring their visions to life with clarity and purpose. He spent decades shaping entrepreneurs, strengthening Black business ecosystems, and teaching the fundamentals of branding and leadership. But what makes his story perfect for this space today, he's a man who has lived multiple chapters. His journey reflects what he honors the most: courage to pivot, the wisdom to evolve, and the power of building a second act rooted in purpose. Family, help me welcome Dr. Leroy McKenzie Jr. How you doing today, brother?
Hey, I am awesome, brother. Thank you for asking, and thank you for having me on the second chase. I truly appreciate this, especially when I get the opportunity to be able to talk about what it is that I have a passion and love for.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. And I'm glad to have you here. We've been talking about doing this for the last couple months, and finally we're making it happen. And it's a pleasure to have you on the show. I hope you're prepared because I really got some. I got some. I'm gonna throw you some curveball questions. Because
Okay,
I checked
okay.
all your sites. I see how much you're
Oh,
involved,
oh.
what you've been doing out there. So I got some really good questions. So are you ready?
Yes, sir. Let's roll.
Yeah, so yeah, thank you again for coming on the show. And I'm going to start right here because I see looking at your sites, you're kind of involved in everything, truly an entrepreneur in spirit. And I would like to call you really a renaissance man based on what I've seen and some of your footage out there, especially you teaching out there in the space that you enjoy doing the most. But I like to start with this. Since you know my show, which I forewarned you, it's about second act, right? And have you had a chance to kind of look at my site and understand what the purpose of that is here on my program?
Yes, yes, I did get a chance to take a quick look at it, and I think that is what you talk about and what you delve into with people having that second act, and even with what we had a dialogue about. Yeah, it's that second act can be something special,
Right.
especially when you're talking about evolving over years.
Thank you. So, my first question I like to start with is when you look at your life chapters, right? If you look at your life's chapters, what moment marked the beginning of your personal second act, if you like to share?
Well, it started when my background is in hotel restaurant management. That's what I went to school for. So I had a career in hotel restaurant management, and in that time frame, I was working for a particular brand hotel, and I won't say the names of folks, but in working with in this position, I was the assistant general manager at the time, working for this particular hotel, and we had opened up this brand new hotel, and I'm talking from the ground up. I was part of that opening team. And so the relationship that I had with the district manager was not the best. And so she and I had a conversation one day, and her words to me was, "You will never become a GM as long as I'm here."
Mm,
That rocked me. And I'm some years in. I think I know that I was at least 10 years in. So to me, I knew right then and there that it was going to take me to be able to really have the mindset of not working for someone or not working and killing myself for someone that did not care about me and the career path that I was on. So,
mm,
and up to that point, myself and the GM, who I'm still friends with today because he and I became really good friends at this time. And so we were working anywhere between 65, 70 hours each a week. So we putting in work. We were doing things, making sure that that were running the way that it was supposed to be running, making sure that the hotel was doing what it was supposed to be doing, hitting our benchmarks and all of those things and everything like that. And
mhm,
for her to say that to me, I was like, yeah, I'm done. I've got to pivot. I've got to move forward in what I wanted to do. And I had that conversation with him because I told him, I'm like, this is what she said to me. And so here's what I'm going to be doing. So that began the trajectory. I've always had that entrepreneurial spirit, but that kind of said, yeah, you got to kick this in gear. And so that's what I did. And I wound up leaving not much longer after that and began to position myself to be able to have my own business, not right away, because it took me, I went to work for a property management company after that. And as I was working for that particular property management company, I started my own business at the same time. And then eventually left there and had my own business ever since then with all intention of being able to branch out and move out and start this second journey of entrepreneurship totally what I do now. So that second act of from being a hotel working in the hotel hospitality industry to now being an entrepreneur, even that has been a journey in and of itself, but it's one that honestly I wouldn't trade it for the world because of the experiences that I've had, the knowledge that I've gained, and
Mhm.
even the resiliency that I've gotten because of those things. So,
People tend to think, right, I want to be an entrepreneur as if it's really easy to, I don't want to say easy, but they think stepping into that might be easier than being employed somewhere, right?
mhm,
Because they start to think about, yeah, I'll be on my own time. You won't have
mhm,
anyone telling me what to do. But the reality is, I think that a lot of people don't understand is that it's actually harder because not having someone tell you to do what to do means you're 100% responsible for what's coming in terms of pay, right? Because you got to pay yourself. And if you don't feel like getting up in the morning, you don't have a manager expecting you to be there, right? So who do you answer to? Yourself, right? So don't you think it requires a lot more commitment and a lot more resilience mentally to lead
a-
yourself in that way?
absolutely. And it's the one thing that I will say, man, D'Angelo, that I didn't have, like you just said, I didn't have the expectation that and understanding that I have now. Because I was one of those that was like, well, yeah, I want to do the entrepreneurship thing. I believe, if I work hard and I do this and do that, then everything is going to work out the way that I want it to work out. When it does not, everybody that's listening, hear me. It does not work out like that. Absolutely not. And what I tell when I speak and I talk to entrepreneurs and I talk to those that are either thinking of becoming an entrepreneur, I said it will do this. It will have you curled up in your bed like a baby asking you, why did I choose to do this? And if you're not ready for that, then entrepreneurship is not for you because it is, like you said, it's commitment, it's consistency, it's resiliency, it's discipline. You talked about that very thing. Not there gonna be days when you don't feel like getting up.
Right,
You're not, and feel like I don't feel like doing it today. And it's
right,
not a thing where you can call in sick. Hey, I'm not coming in today. You are the one that is being depended on. And so you have to have there's a different mindset that you have to have as an entrepreneur than someone who is a regular 9 to 5 working person. It's just
mhm,
a totally different way of thinking. It's a totally different way of handling yourself and being able to deal with the day to day because there are going to be things that come at you that that the a regular employee will not have to handle. What do you do? What do you do when you got that client that you have to perform that you have to produce for and you didn't produce?
right,
You didn't. What do you do? How do you handle that very action? What do you tell them? How do you explain to them that it didn't get done, that the offer that you made didn't produce or deliver what it is that you said that you were going to deliver?
right.
What do you do when? No, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was talking to another entrepreneur I interviewed not too ago. She's in the travel business, and we
Mm,
were talking about the fact that I don't think everyone's built to be an entrepreneur, and I think that's fine, because
mhm.
the reality is like, for example, we know this because, like you said, you were employed at one point. You could go into work today and you can say, all right, I'm going to work 90% of the time. I'm going to work 90% today because my head's not ready, and you're still going to get a paycheck, right?
Yep.
But as an entrepreneur, though, you choose to do 90%, you def you hurting yourself. You know what I'm saying? Because
Hmm.
that extra 10% you leave out, that might have been one more call to land
Yep.
a deal, get a new client, or something like that, right? So it's a much more different mindset to have to be successful, I think, in the entrepreneur game. And then I think where some people struggle, which, bringing it back to the second act moment here, is that, you know, if you're in your second act, what I've come to find is that I'm not an entrepreneur in spirit. I'm not. I know that. I know myself, right?
Okay.
But if I'm passionate about something, it doesn't feel like work. So it's
Mhm.
trying to find something to mesh your passion with something that you can be entrepreneurish with, right?
Mhm.
So it doesn't feel so much like work, because then, yeah, I possibly could be an entrepreneur, but I'm not motivated just by how much money I'm going to make,
For
because
sure.
that's not enough motivation for me. I want to make enough to
Right.
do the things I want to do. So I guess my question to you is, you know, have you found your purpose in your second act and been able to integrate that within your entrepreneurial drive as well?
Yeah, and I love that question, man. That is a beautiful question because the two things that any entrepreneur must discover and must have before anything else is your identity and your purpose. If you do not have those two things, that's the foundation of everything that you do because it's what you build on. Your purpose is what gets you up on those days that we just talked about, that you don't feel like doing it. That purpose is what's there for you. It's what's inside you. You understand the assignment that you're on, and that assignment for you makes the difference between, like you talked about, you might even be closing an account, or it might
Mhm,
even be the difference with you connecting with someone that you would not have connected with had you stayed in the bed. And I tell on my podcast, I tell those that are listening to me, I wake up every single day asking myself, how can I make those that listen to me, that hear me, that may have some type of encounter with me, make you 1% better? The assignment, the purpose is always to make you better by the end of the year than you were at the beginning of the year. And that
mhm,
comes by making myself 1% better each and every day. But then also those that I have an encounter with, making them 1% better as well. So that purpose is what helps me and guides me in what I do for those that I serve and those that I work for, those that I work with, and those that I work with. That purpose is always at the forefront of me for me because it's what
mhm,
keeps me going on those days that I'm not.
mhm. So what is the deal with this? Is this a word you came up with? I never heard authorpreneur. Like, what's going on with that? Can you explain to me a little bit why you call yourself
Sure.
an authorpreneur?
Yeah. I call myself an entrepreneur. One is because you know the word entrepreneur, right?
Mhm,
And what entrepreneurship is all about. That's someone who takes on the risk and all the responsibility of handling those things that you have of running a business. An entrepreneur is someone who has written a book and takes on, or books, I should say book, written a book or books, and takes on the full responsibility of being both an author and an entrepreneur. That means handling the design of a book, from all the way from handling, making sure that the design of the book, you get to have a say in what that looks like. You
mhm,
work with a team, a graphic team. You work with connecting with those different people that you need to connect with, printers. Like I have a client that who we got her books in and printed this week, and it was, I mean, it had been a challenge getting it done. So I'm the one that has to handle that for my, not only for those that I works for the clients, but also for myself, because I didn't want to, when I started writing the books that I've written, I didn't want to go the traditional route of trying to get an agent and trying to get with a mainstream publishing company because I didn't want that cookie cutter machine that most of them are. If you don't fit
Mhm.
into their box, then they may take you on, but then you'll just kind of be on the bottom shelf and you'll sit there. That wasn't me. So I was like, well, if I'm gonna do this, again, taking that mindset of having to leave the hospitality industry, if work I'm gonna work day and night like that for someone, it might as well be for myself. So
Right.
that's where that title entrepreneur comes on because I took on all that responsibility of handling those aspects of being an author, all the way from marketing to branding to dealing with the printer, the campaigning, setting up book signings and book all of those things. So that's what an entrepreneur is.
Mhm. So what would you say that are the most pivotal key, I guess, mindset beliefs that drive you every day, that keep you focused, keep you able to pivot when you need to, keep your morale up? Because I know everybody's different, right? But in this journey that you're currently at in your life in this chapter, what are the key mindset moments? Because you can see in the back, I have mindset is everything. Because
Mhm.
even myself, I've come to understand, just even over the last 10 years, the changes in myself started
Mhm.
here before I could
Right.
see anything
Yep.
out here happen. Right. So what shapes you in terms of thought process that keeps your mind healthy and resilient to do the things you're doing?
Yeah, and here's what I do. I have and what I've found the most successful people, they have a routine. And part of my routine in the morning is I do because I'm part of a mastermind group that's in the Remain organization. But what we do and what we are tasked to do every single day, every single morning, is to have prayer, meditation, journaling, visualization, and those things get you in alignment with your day. It allows you to be able to have the right mindset, to be able to have the I won't say calming, but just the kind of a soothing to understand what your assignment is for that day, and then understanding what who you are and what you have to do. And what I mean by that is part of that meditation piece is I have what's called I am statements. I have 7 I am statements that I have to write, but I also are part of what I must say as well. So that gives me the ability to be able to center myself and to be able to understand who I am so that no matter what it is that I encounter that day, the challenge, because challenges are going to come, but the key is being able to how do you respond and are you equipped to handle the challenges that come, and being centered in the morning allows me to be able to say, you know what, okay, take a step back, you know let's think it through, and then how do we proceed through through this challenge. And it gives me the opportunity to be able to think about what the challenge is, and it gives me the ability to be able to seek answers, whether it's me individually or it's, hey, I got to pick up the phone or send a message. Hey, man, I'm kind of struggling with this, or I'm trying to do this or do that. You know, do you have any suggestions or this? And I have people in my circle of impact that I can reach out to as
Mhm.
well when I'm having something that I feel is even, I feel like I need, other than myself, I need someone to be able to kind of run things by and kind of talk to about it. So
Mhm.
that's how I handle that. That routine, having a schedule gives you order, gives you discipline, and allows you to be able to commit.
That's awesome. You know what? We're going to take a minute break here because we're going to come back on the next segment and we're going to get into a segment on leadership, clarity, and reinvention. So, Dr. Leroy, thank you again. We're back. And now we're going to jump to another segment because, again, this brother on my show, I just want you guys to know, like, he has so much knowledge. If you go look at his profile on LinkedIn, you check him out on TikTok, you check him out on Facebook, you check on all the platforms. plus his own platform on Linktree, you'll see tons of content. So, we literally would have to have him back on the show if we really wanted to focus and hone in on one area. So, what I decided to do for this show is just kind of segment them so that we could get a little bit from him in little different areas. Sounds fair?
Absolutely.
Wonderful. So we're going to talk a little bit now about leadership, clarity, and reinvention, especially in your
Yeah.
second act. And the first question I want to ask you is, you teach a lot about clarity, I've seen in your content, as a foundational principle. Okay. And so how does clarity shape your own second act pivot?
Yeah, and it's like we said, it's the foundation of you moving from where you are to where you want to be.
Okay.
And what I mean by that, we talked about, in which you said, I mean, just so appropriately, mindset sets the transformation from what I call chaos, from chaos to clarity. Because you have too many leaders, too many people out here today that are walking around in chaos. They have no clue about how to get from where they are to get to where it is that they're trying to be. And
Wow.
having clarity begins with saying, okay, being honest with yourself, being transparent with yourself. I am here. This is what it is. It may not be pretty, it may be ugly, but this is where I am. And if I'm going to move to where it is that I want to be, I have to have an understanding of that. And then I have to have put a structure in place in order to be able to move and to transform. That second act that you're in is a decision that you make. I've decided to move from where I was in that first act to now saying my second act, I want it to look like this. And if it's going to look like this, I have to put in place a structure that will build me to where it is that I ultimately want to be. And I put it like this, and I say one of my I am statements again is, I am building my legacy daily. Your legacy
Mm,
isn't something that you end at the end of your life. Your legacy is something that you build each and every day, so that when you do leave here, people then can say that she did this, and this along the way. That's what the clarity brings to you. That's what understanding your purpose is, being clear on what the assignment is. Are you clear on your assignment? Are you clear on your identity? When you're clear on your identity, people can say what they want to say.
mhm.
It's not going to impact you, because, as you were saying, that comes from inside out. Clarity is about working from inside to outside, and it comes from working every single day on who you are. And
Yeah.
when you can do that, everything else will work its way out. Yes, we're going to have challenges. Things may not go the way that you exactly want them to go, but that's where being able to adapt, being able to pivot, being able to adjust comes along. My
Mhm.
life didn't turn out exactly the way that I wanted, but as I said, I've understood that I had to adapt. I had to be able to adjust to it and do the things that I wanted to do. And that second act that I'm in now, which is this entrepreneurship journey, I know what I want it to look like. And that means I got to work at that every single day.
Wow. Yeah. And I like that you said you have to live what it sounds like. You have to live in your legacy. You can't wait to,
Yep.
create it. It's gonna happen. You gotta be living in your legacy as you're going through this journey of life. You're especially in your second act. I think, a lot of people priorities change as they get older, how they want to
Mhm.
see themselves, but they've created a life so long that is not the life that, I think, let me explain it a different way. They create a life that they necessarily didn't want to live in, and they find
Yep.
out about that 40 in the 30 years, year 40 and 50, and they're like, oh boy, this is not the life I wanted. Let me change everything around, you know.
Yep.
And it seems like such a daunting task to do that when you've created all these obligations and you've created enablers in your life. You've created how people perceive you because how you perceived yourself wrongfully for so long, right? So there's a lot of change. We're talking about professional world right now, but how do you manage that from a personal level in terms of relationships?
Mm. I love that because I'm intentional about the relationships that I have, whether they are family, with friends, business associates, even partnerships and collaborations that I have. I try to be intentional and understand and being clear on what that relationship means, and what it is. If it's as far as the business relationship, is this a short term business relationship, or is it a long term business relationship? Are we here for the long haul? Or is this just something, hey, we got one or two projects that we're working on together, and then, then we move on. We may still be connected, of course, but the as far as us being together, as far from a business purpose and everything like that, we move on and we grow.
Mhm.
All of those things. I think about those things, and I have to be clear on what those relationships look like, even from a personal perspective, with the relationships with my from within my family, because my family, we're a very close knit small family. So those relationships that I have with my mom, with my sisters, with my nephews, my nieces, those are personal to me. And how do I nurture them? Because seeing my nieces and nephews being adults now, I'm just like, you see, it's a different
Yeah.
conversation that you
Mhm.
that you have with them now. And so even with my sisters, we are in different places in our life. Even with my mom, she's at a different place in her life. So you have to have a clear. I try to have a clear understanding of what those relationships look like and what they are, and then even the business relationships, being intentional with them. I have business relationships with folks before I came on with you. One of my business associates, she's a close friend. We've known each other for over 10 years. I've
Mm.
supported her in her business for over 10, 15 years now, because she has an event that I'm a part of coming up next month. And so I'm on with her with the other people in there. So that relationship is different. I have other connections that I have with people that I've develop into personal relationships. We become really good friends. I mentioned to you the gentleman that I worked in the hospitality industry. We're friends now. We no longer work together. He
Mhm.
retired. I always mess with him now because he retired. I'm like, you ain't got no job. You tell me. You know, but we're at different stages, but the friendship is still there. The connection is still there with us. So there's a different dynamic with it, man. It's really, I enjoy being able to see that, because you're going to have these ebbs and flows when it comes to the dynamics of relationships. And that's what I've learned in my years now that I'm older, that those relationships, they move. They move and they change, and you have to be willing to see them for what they are, and then you move on.
Mm. So you talk about the difference between greatness and gimmicks. How does
Mm,
that how does that distinction how does that distinction show up for people reinventing themselves in their life?
Here's how they want to show up. First, we talked about gaining clarity. Are you someone who is running gimmicks, or are you chasing greatness? Are you somebody that just wants to, as one of my business associates called it, he said, are you just a performer? Are you just out there performing so that you can gain what it is that you're trying to gain? Yeah, pretty much
Selling?
like an opportunity, yeah, but they
Okay.
they perform in order to be able to play people. And I said this too, that you have a lot of performers out here today where they're selling people a fantasy. And that's what an opportunity is. They're selling you a fantasy. They're selling
Okay.
you, hey, you can do this with your business. Just pay me $5.95 or $9.97 for this course or this class,
Mhm.
and it'll do this for you. Knowing good and well, the only thing that they want from you is to be able to get you to sign up and pay that $9.97, and then they're on
Mhm.
to the next person, and and to the next person and the next person, as opposed to someone who is chasing greatness, who is intentional about what they do on a daily basis. and I use, I use analogies, but I use Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant. They were relentless about chasing greatness. I mean, they had a structure, they had a mindset that they were not out here trying to perform for anybody. Hey, you can love me or hate me. I don't care. I'm out here that I have a higher purpose. I have a higher assignment than you may think of. And so I can't be worried about this person or that person, or, I don't believe in doing people wrong. And I have my thinkings on leadership and what that should look like. But the ultimate goal is the difference between that person that's chasing greatness and that person that's running gimmicks is the intention. The person who's chasing greatness is intentional about the assignment that they're on, and they're focused, they're laser focused and committed. The one who's running the gimmicks, yeah, they running game. They
Mhm.
trying to get over on people, and they don't care how they get over on people. They just look to be able to get over on
Let me turn it to a different direction for a minute. As you're talking, I'm listening, right?
people.
But you lead me to another question about Black entrepreneurism. So,
Mhm.
how do you feel? What do you feel the state of Black entrepreneurship is right now, as you see it, considering the last 50 years and where we're currently at right now? Are you optimistic? Are you proud? Are you like it's not enough? Like, how do you see it?
Well, I think that we, as Black entrepreneurs, one, I'm proud of us because there are many of us that are taking that leap and moving into entrepreneurship. But what concerns me is people have to be very careful. And like we talked before, this entrepreneurship journey is not easy. There are, and I do this to get people to understand the success rate for entrepreneurs in year one is 80%. Year two, three, it drops to 50%. When you get to year five and beyond, it is only 35%, 30 to 35% of entrepreneurs succeed. That's the success rate. So you must be mindful of that and understand, are you positioning yourself to be able to be a part of that 30 to 35%? Do you want sustainability? Do you want to be one of the ones that is around like a Nike, like a Marriott hotel, like a Chick-fil-A? Is that what you're aiming for, or are you just out here kind of winging it and I'll figure it and try to get things done? And I think we have to be mindful of that, and we have to be careful of it, because the more structured that you are, the more apt you are to be successful. And I think that's the one thing that I want us to understand.
Mm,
Being in entrepreneurs, be prepared. I know a lot of folks want to say they don't have a business plan. That you don't need a business plan. You don't need a business model, but you do need something to be able to give you that structure in order to
mm,
be able to create the sustainability. I don't care if it's 1 year, 5 years, 10 years. You still need to have that structure in place in order for you to be able to be successful. And
mm,
so we, I think a lot of us, and if you watch the news, you know that there's some that that haven't been mindful of that very thing, and as a consequence of that, they're now they're now struggling, being, staying afloat, because this what we're going through right now is not a joke. And those that are prepared for the sustainability, well, you're gonna take some hits, as a lot of people have.
mhm.
But as one of my mentors, Dr. Will, said, principles don't change. Principles, whether you're up or you down, those principles don't change. And if you are locked in on the principles of who you are and what your brand is, your business is, then you will be able to get through these challenging times as well as get through the good times too. But
Yeah, I like that you said principles don't change. I could agree to that, but when change comes, it's hard sometimes for people to change and pivot. So you
hmm
see this a lot. My background is HR, so I've
okay,
seen this a lot. When companies change,
hmm
it's hard to get some employees to change.
yeah,
And the older we get, the more, settled we get. And that's something that I'm always super conscious of. So, since you said that, if you think about what happened during COVID and how many
Mhm.
restaurants
Yep.
had to change in order to stay afloat, restaurants that never did takeout had to do
Mhm.
takeout, and now they're still doing takeout, right?
Mhm.
As well, right? Because they had to pivot and change the way people want their food. And that COVID, as bad as it was, it changed our entire economy. Now you
Yep.
have tons of companies before that. I've been working remote for the last 15, 20 years of my
Mhm.
life. I've been in
Mhm.
companies that I've been fortunate where I've go in the office 2 days a week,
Mhm.
90% 1 day a week, right? Before COVID, but now after COVID, tons of companies now,
Mhm.
we have companies now wanting to bring people back more, but hybrid is the norm now. Hybrid is the norm, right? So,
Yes.
you know, in terms of what would you say to second act professionals who want to be entrepreneurs, who want to remain successful in a world where AI now gives us so many capabilities? Are you yourself embracing that in the work you're doing? Are you, and what's your thoughts on that? How you could tell others to not get left behind in this huge technology change? Because that's the thing I'm
Yeah.
concerned about for people like us.
Mhm. Yeah, and the first thing is we must embrace technology. That's the key because it's not going anywhere. It's forever changed. COVID forever changed the lens of the way we see business. It's because before COVID, like you said, there were some of us that were prepared for it, and not prepared for that, but we were kind of what I call we were ahead of the bell curve because there were things that we already were doing, had in place that we didn't have to necessarily pivot to be able to do because we were already doing it. As opposed to like you were saying, restaurants, churches, and other types of some other types of businesses, they literally had to learn on the go. They had to, what is this doing stuff online thing? How do I gotta learn it and still be able to do it at the same learn it and do it at the same time. And,
Mhm,
and that became something that has I think had to stay. Now after COVID, I think businesses owners and entrepreneurs they figured out, hey, that it was a way that that we don't necessarily have to be in the office all the time. That we
mhm,
can allow some employees to work remotely from home and
mhm,
to be able to do those things. And so there was that was created. Hey, I don't have to travel as much now as opposed to where I thought I had to do this and do that. I had to be in person for this and do that. Where now there's at least the option where you don't necessarily have to be in person. Hey, we can do this we can do this a hybrid. We can have
mhm,
in person or we can actually do it online, whichever way or both if we choose to do so. So
mhm,
it's opened up for entrepreneurs. It's a new way of doing business because here's the expansion piece on that. And even well, I say even more because it's already there. But now you and I we're in two different states doing this very thing,
mhm.
and we don't have to be sitting in a studio and having to do the interview. We can actually do this through digital. And
Mhm.
so what it did is it's allowed us as entrepreneurs to be able to say, hey, I can be in Baltimore and I can do business with those on the continent. I can literally do business with someone over in China or Australia.
Right.
I'm not limited in that now. It's leveled to me. It's leveled the playing field and how we're able to do. And if for those that are intimidated by it, that may be kind of scared about innovation and that second act, you have to be willing to embrace it first. It's in it because it's not going anywhere. And yes, there are things that you're going to have to learn. There are going to be some things that you have to unlearn. To be honest with you, you got to learn some things and unlearn some things. And those that are willing to learn and adjust are going to be the ones that don't get left behind.
Yeah, I believe to stay relevant, especially in your second act, you have
Yeah.
to remain to have you have to be able to continue to have curiosity.
Hmm.
Because, you know, the older you get, the more experience you have, the more you're like, "Well, I've been doing this the last 30 years. I know
Yep.
exactly what I'm doing now." But when we have such a drastic change in technology happening right now, the ways of working now are different. We can be way more productive, and that was,
Mhm.
a thing I wanted to ask because, as an entrepreneur, I think there's more opportunity to be an entrepreneur now because of the technology. The things
Mhm.
that you would need to operate can be done through automated systems and things if you just
Mhm.
took your time to just kind of understand them. You can, just about 5 years ago, actually less than that, maybe just a couple years ago, you would need to go to a program or you need to go to some site where they will build a website for you. Now you can build a website for yourself in 2 minutes. You know what I'm
Yep.
saying? I mean, literally, you can
Mhm.
build a website for you in 2 minutes, right? And all the programming will be done behind the scene, everything. So
Yep.
as an entrepreneur, I would think this would be the best time to actually be an entrepreneur. Just pick the right product.
Right. Right. Exactly. Exactly. You definitely want to make sure that you have the right product or the right service that you're offering to people. And you want to do your due diligence on it. Make sure that it's something that you're doing just to be doing. Oh, because this is where I'm at, this is what's trending. Because
Right.
trends fade. Trends come and go. And I think that's what a lot of people are finding too. A lot of these entrepreneurs, they're finding, hey, yeah, that was hot a couple years ago, but now that's fading away. So what do you do? How do you come to your second act, your third act? Because now you gotta be able to have other things outside of what you thought was going to be a part of something and it wasn't sustainable, you know.
So let's talk a little bit about your books. And I don't want to, I know you got a lot of books. That's why I want to make sure we touch on this a little bit because we want people to go to your sites and see all your information and, find because you have a source of information to share. What would you say is your best? Well, actually, let me rephrase that. Which of your books best reflects the wisdom you have
Mhm.
gained over the
Oh wow,
last few years? Book
man.
everyone should go get.
Yeah, and here's the thing. Each of the books that I've written, they came from a certain aspect of my life. I'm a poet. I've written a couple of books of poetry that came from a certain segment in my life, writing on those things that I either felt or that I had were part of my life, or people that were part of my life and talking. The Building the 21st Century Company series, those books were because of my passion and the time that I spent in corporate America, and the things that I learned being in corporate America and being a part of that, the power of a man, my passion for and love that I have for us as men, specifically black men, and us wanting to be able to understand the power that we have and being able to walk in that power in the different aspects of it. And then, Unleashed, that's probably the one project that it has I've gained the most knowledge of as far as, recently because I've learned so much in being able to put into that book. And I'm about excellence, and because as we talk about leadership and entrepreneurship here today, I want us to be able to operate in excellence. And the what I talk about in that book are those things that I've learned over these years, the experience that I've gained in how to walk in that excellence. What are the things that we need to do if we're going to unleash our entrepreneurial excellence and be able to do that on a daily and consistent basis.
Mm.
So
So you have this entrepreneur briefcase and
mhm.
Jack Pack questionnaire, which I see are very powerful tools. How did you how did you own your own reinvention influence those creations?
Well, the jetpack is actually one of my clients. That's her invention. And what
Okay.
we did was, yeah, we had the questionnaire because we were trying to gather data, and that was
Okay.
where we collected the data off of there. But the entrepreneur briefcase which is I wanted to have something or create something that was specifically for entrepreneurs that transformed them from chaos to clarity. Because as we mentioned before, we have too many entrepreneurs that are out here not understanding how to put their thoughts together in order to be able to create the sustainability that they need in order to be able to be a successful entrepreneur. So, what I thought of was, hey, if I can put something in such a way that takes them through this transformation, gives them frameworks, gives them concepts, gives them strategies, gives them formulas that they can use in order to be able to be successful, then this is something that they'll be able to have and be a part of them creating their legacy that outlives them far beyond when they're no longer here. So that's what the entrepreneurial briefcase is for.
Can you be an entrepreneur? Can you truly be an entrepreneur if you haven't failed at anything?
Mm. I would say, yeah, you can't. No, you can't be an entrepreneur because there's not one that I can think of. Maybe you know of an entrepreneur that has never failed. They'll tell you part of the process of being an entrepreneur is failing. And I tell people these couple stories. And I don't know if you know them or if your listeners know them too. Colonel Sanders was in his 60s when he got the when he kind of moved his that can Kentucky Fried Chicken.
Mhm.
64. Prior to that, he was had a I think a restaurant that he was trying to keep afloat and failed at doing that. The the cleaning stuff, Formula 409. Do you know where that 409 comes from?
No.
They failed 408 times to trying to develop that formula. The 409th time
Wow.
they got it right. That's why it's Formula 409. When I heard that story, I was like, that's what, but it is. It's about failing. But here's the difference between what will make an entrepreneur and will discourage others. The entrepreneur, the one that has it in them, is the one that decides to get up again and again and again and not allow, hey, those failures and those challenges to be, to get the best of them. There's a commercial years ago. I don't know if you remember it. Michael Jordan, there's a commercial that he does for Nike. He said, I've missed over 4,000 something shots. And at the end of it, he said, that's what makes me great because he understood those misses were just as instrumental in making him great as those makes were because the misses made him work harder so that he would come to make those big shots that he got counted on. And that's
Wow.
how we have to be as entrepreneurs. Yeah,
Makes
that
sense.
challenge, it might have knocked you down, but are you willing? Do you have enough resilience to get back up again?
Uh, I hear that. Yeah, that's why I asked because, I think, people take their failures very hard,
Yeah,
but it's failures are part of the process. I mean, that's one of the
yeah,
best ways to learn sometimes, right? Because
yeah,
when you fail at something, it hits you hard and you're doing a lot of thinking. I tend to always try to tell myself if anything I failed at is I try to find what is the solution so that doesn't happen again.
yeah,
And that's how you turn, I believe, you turn any failure into success because through the knowledge through that failure actually fixes the failure for the future, right? So yeah, I love that you said that. So how would you say, especially in today's world where social media is so
yes.
prevalent in people's lives, right? How would you tell someone in their second act to think differently about branding themselves or their business?
Well, what I would tell them is to utilize social media for what it can do for you. A lot of people are on social media platforms just to be on platforms. They're out there just to perform. You can see it every single day. They're out there just to perform. But are you intentional about the content that you're creating, about the information that you are disseminating to other people? Are you making people better by the information that you're putting out there to them? Can you say that after they have that digital encounter with you, that you made someone better? I love being able to find things. And if I see something on social media, I will tell the person, hey, you made me 1% better today by giving me something that I did not have and would not have had I not had this social media encounter with you. So, how are you using social media in order to be able to gain the exposure that you want as a brand, to build the trust that you want to build as an entrepreneur? Are you using it to build trust, or are you just using it to, hey, I'll just, I'm just on here, not doing anything with it. I'm just trying to perform so that I can get clicks and likes and all of that other information, talking about nothing. I call
Mhm.
it cotton candy podcast. I call it cotton candy because cotton candy is big and fluffy, but when you bite into it, it's nothing. It melts
Right,
immediately.
right. What role
Yeah.
do you want to play Black entrepreneurship right now?
I love that. The role that I want to play in Black entrepreneurship is giving giving Black entrepreneurs the equipping them with the ability to master their their craft. Whatever that craft is, I want to make sure that you are equipped, whatever the tools are, whatever the information that I can give to them, so that you create, so that you have the ability now to be sustainable, and that you're building, understand that you're building your legacy every single day. That's hopefully what they come away with when they hear me talk about the things that I talk about being an entrepreneur, and that hopefully they can say that I gave them something that just makes them, that equips them, that enlightens them, that teaches them something, empowers them, which is teach them something, and then impacts them in such a way that they want to do something.
Mhm.
That's what I want to do.
Interesting. Yeah. So for yourself, a personal question for yourself is because I know people's success, what they define as success changes throughout the course of your life. How
Mhm.
has success changed from you from the, I guess, younger version of you to the mature seasoned version of yourself? Has that definition of success changed drastically or at all?
Yeah, it's changed for me in this sense that I've come to understand that success isn't just in your bank account. Success isn't just about how many people you're influencing, or how many people have in this social media era that we're in have liked your content. It's not about that. Success is preparing not only myself, but preparing others for the opportunity that they're going to gain in order to be able to move their brand from this level to the next level to the next level. To me, that's what looks like. Success for me looks like me getting a phone call or an email or something from someone that is interested in working with me because of a client that referred them to me. That's success, because it means that what I did for that particular client meant so much to them that they could tell someone else about what I do and the work that I've done. So that's the growth that I've had in understanding what success is.
Got you. So if you were to if you were to tell someone who's watching right now who feels that they're at this moment of their moment in this life where they need to reinvent themselves and they're a little hesitant, they're a little scared to step out and do what they want to do, right? What would be the first words you would share of encouragement, given your background and experience and the things you've been doing to help other entrepreneurs like like yourself?
The first thing I would say to them is believe. Everything starts with you believing in who you are and who you want to become. Because if you don't believe it, there's no one else that's going to believe it. So that goes to the mindset that we talked about. Have that clarity of believing in who you are, what you're doing, and the product and service that you want to be able to offer to to the marketplace and to whatever particular industry that you are in, and then create what I call the four pillars of sustainability, which is your mindset, your principles, your processes, and systems. Have the right mindset, have a core set of principles that you abide by and that you're not willing to compromise on. Set up processes so that you have in place those things that you know that need to get done and how to be able to get done, making sure that you're writing down everything as an entrepreneur. How do I do this? How do I do that? So that anyone can come into your business and all they got to do is follow what you've written down. And then the systems. What systems do you need to have in order to be able to have that business to be able to run efficiently when you're not there? Because you want it to be able to run when you're not there.
Right. So where could anyone who's interested in, you know, getting in one of your lessons or purchasing one of your books or any of your seminars information, where could what's the best way to find everything?
Yeah, that would be the best way is to go to my link tree because that's where everything is. Have you seen it? It has my YouTube channel. It has all of my social media platforms that I'm on. My books, everything is there, and that's the TTP colon // link linktr.ee /JNF Enterprises. They can
Yeah,
go
don't worry
there.
about that. We're gonna share that link
Yeah,
in the description on the YouTube at and it'll be there so people can just click on the link and go straight there and
yeah.
all and some of
So
the other platforms. So that's where
that's
we
the
can reach you. Is there anything that you're doing next? Like I know you shared, one of your latest books. What do you have in store? What's the plan for Dr. Leroy for 2026?
the plan is elevation. Prepare to elevate in 2026. Everything in 2026 for me and for those that I serve is about elevating. How do I, on a daily basis, elevate the entrepreneurs, the entrepreneurs, the leaders and organizations that I am connecting with and that I am working for? How do I elevate you? So tomorrow on LinkedIn, which is where you saw me, I'm doing a 4-part series, masterclass series. So I'm on there. It'll be for the next 4 weeks. I did week one last week. This is the second week this week. And and ironically, I'm talking about innovation. I'm talking about the 5 rules, or I may do 10, the 5 or 10 rules of embracing innovation. And how do you use innovation in order to be able to grow and elevate here in 2026? So
How are
I'm
you doing that
doing.
on LinkedIn? Like, I mean, is this live on LinkedIn?
Yeah, it's live. Yeah, it's live and live on LinkedIn. It's from 2 to 3. It's only an hour. It's not long at all. It's only an hour, and I do it through Streamyard. I do it through Stream. It's done through Streamyard because you can. They have it
Okay.
where you can stream to a third party, but it's through Streamyard, and it's only, like I said, it's only for an hour, and it's power packed, and it's to give the entrepreneurs, the leaders, some knowledge, information, and tools to create frameworks that they need in order to be able to create that sustainability that we've been talking about this evening.
So you also, I think you mentioned briefly, you have a podcast. Do you have a podcast as well?
Yeah. Every morning I do, and I call it a podcast. People may not consider it a podcast, but I go live because it's usually maybe between 5 and 10 minutes long. It's called the Brand New Podcast. And
Mhm.
all I do is come on and I have like this week, the theme for this week are 5 mistakes that organizations make because of their fear of innovation. Notice the theme that I have is innovation. I wanted to talk about innovation this week because people's fear of embracing it. And what happens, the mistakes that you make because you're fearful of what innovation can do or what you think it might do and those things. So that I do that every morning, Monday through Friday. I do that Monday through Friday, and that's at 9 o'clock. I go from 9 to 9. It's the latest 9:15. I usually try to keep it very
What
short.
platform can we watch you on for
That's
that?
actually yeah, that's actually done on Facebook Live,
Okay.
and then I also have it on YouTube as well. That's on the YouTube because every single one of those are on YouTube as well. So
Okay. Cool. So then, yeah, you're all over the place. So we got we got to catch you somewhere. That's great. and I would
Right.
love
Somebody
to
gonna catch me somewhere. That's the intent of it.
Yeah, definitely gotta have you back too, because there's a lot of, knowledge you can share, and I think again, I tried to cram a lot into 1 hour, which is a little difficult given your broadness and background, but, I wanna thank you, Dr. Leroy. Is there anything before, we close, is there anything else you want the people watching this to know about yourself that we did not cover?
Not just I want them to know that my love and passion for entrepreneurship and for leadership, as we've talked about tonight, that's always at the forefront of me because I always want us to do better and be better. So I love the opportunity. Thank you for the opportunity to be able to come onto your platform and to be able to talk to your audience about this because hopefully something that we've said tonight makes them just 1% better. That's it. Oh, no,
I
just
love that.
1% better.
I love that. Yeah, well, if there's anything I can do to support you for, after this, I hope we can nurture this relationship. If you ever,
Absolutely.
looking for any guests on you, as well on your platform, happy to come through as well.
Oh,
Um,
absolutely.
I want to say, Dr. Leroy McKenzie Jr., thank you for sharing your wisdom, your evolution. Your journey reminds us that reinvention isn't a setback, it's a strategy. And your work shows that clarity, purpose, and community can transform a life at any age, at any chapter. Your second act isn't about starting over, it's about starting truer. I am DeAngelo. This is Second Act with DeAngelo. And your second act begins the moment you decide you deserve more. Thank you.